Okay, welcome again to our MAT113. This is our second week. Welcome everyone.
Good afternoon din po.
Good afternoon. Isal, are you there?
Good afternoon po. Yes po.
Okay, sige. Wala pa si Dale. So anyway, we'll just continue. So the material that I have uploaded, these are just a survey of some of the mathematical functions. Now, particularly the first one we have discussed, no? Okay. So wala pa pala dito yung ating ano. So I'll be using Octave. By the way, have you tried creating an M file on this Octave? Have you tried?
Hindi pa po, sir.
Hindi pa. So well, it's easy to create an M file, no? As we have seen, no? So I will just share this to you. On our private chat. So this is my workplace now, where we could make use of our Octave as an online platform for solving. Now, so far, basing on the notes, we are actually dealing under part of advanced mathematics is fitting curves to data. So far, we have discussed polynomials. I think last time, no, we started polynomials. What are those formula again, or commands? Of course, there are two. No, that's the poly to sim. So poly to sim and sim to poly. So those are the two function. Poly to sim is from symbolic vector to a polynomial expression, and then symbolic sim to poly is actually a polynomial to symbolic vector. So that's how we do it. And then I think we also have the roots, right? Last time. We also discussed the roots, command for root. By the way, the link here is later on. If we will still have time, we will continue on trying to solve some problems, sample problems. Okay, so I think roots, we are done with that. I think polyball also, no? We also, whereas we are actually, medyo bumabagal yung aking ano. That's more on evaluation, no? Evaluation or polyball. Now we're evaluating a particular value of x evaluated to a polynomial. That's polyball. I think we have some samples on that also on page 474 of your notes. Then we have the curve fitting. I think these are self-explanatory, no? So under the curve fitting, no, we have this command. For instance, the value of x. Can you see the command line?
Yes, sir.
Value of x is from 2 to 6. So we are creating a value from 2 to 6. If I will not put a semicolon, it will generate values from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so that would be, but if I will just put it in a semicolon, so Octave or MATLAB will just store the value and not displaying the command or the result of the command. Now also I have values of y, but if my values of y are not in interval, so I could always assign a vector to represent. For this case on our book, we have this value 65, 67, 42, 71, and 63. By the way, is Gillian still part of our class or no more?
Hindi na daw po.
Hindi na, no? Ano kaya nangyari kay Gillian? Bakit ano? Bakit iba yung ano? Di ba meron tayong pre-reg muna, pre-reg evaluation, no? Prior to registration. So normally in the university, so tatlo na lang pala kayo, guys, no? Ayan, no? Tatlo na lang yung nandito. Malakihan ko nga ng konti. Yan, tatlo na lang tayo. Actually, 5. Kasama si LD Woosley. So, normally, kapag sa university, tama Hazel, no? Sa university, we have a pre-reg or pre-registration evaluation. Normally, it's done by your advisor or your professor. Tinitingnan yung prospectus mo. Hindi mo pwedeng kunin ng trigo, wala kang algebra. Ganun. Di ka pwedeng mag-calculus, wala kang geometry. So doon pa lang nalalaman prior to registration. So parang na-avoid yung mga dagdag bawas na o laban bawi na course. Sayang naman kasi nakapag week number 1 na tapos biglang mawawala. Sayang yung ano, yung effort. No, tama Hazel, no? I suppose you experienced that. There's a pre-registration evaluation prior to the official registration. May pre-reg nga tayo, di ba? May mga pre-reg. Ayan. Wala pa rin si Dale, no? Si Dale lang sinabihan kong 130 nung una. We met at our MAT113. Isa na lang ang estudyante ko. I suppose by next year, you already think of your title, guys, ha? Para pag mag-enroll kayo ng MAT181, may title na agad. Research title. You try to have at least 5 research title. So by next year, you will dapat meron na kayong 181 no, MAT 181. Mag-isip na kayo ng mga research title niyo para mabilis. No, kasi kung mag-iisip pa lang on the SEM itself, medyo baka kulangin ng oras. Okay, for those assuming na ako magiging professor, assuming. Pero kung iba naman, walang problema. But I would encourage students to have their research title in mind already. Somewhat that is close to their heart and close to their hand, no, and close to their head as well. Ayun, nawala si Hazel. So, yan, from time to time daw mawawala si Hazel. Wala ka pa rin 181 ni Kaela, no? Wala pa.
Wala pa po, sir. Hindi ko po muna tinake.
Hindi mo muna, pero pwede, sana. Ba't ayaw mo? Pwede naman sana pala. Kasi may advanced stat ka na, no? Tama?
Opo. Gusto ko po siya tutukan po next year.
Next year.
Kasi third year pa rin po ako next year, sir.
Oo nga, sayang yung time, no? Kung sana pwedeng i-squeeze yung mga subjects, no? Tapos ilang units ka lang ngayon?
Ngayon po, 19 po.
19, no? Pwede pang dagdagan sana yan, no? Ano bang full units?
27 po.
27. Kayang-kaya pa sana. Sayang din kasi yung time. Kung pwede naman, pwede siyang isama sa isang semester. Why not? Para at the same time, ayun, makagraduate na yung estudyante. At the same time, makapag-take na rin ng board exam. Anyway. So here, let's go back to our, wala pa si Dale, no? Let's go back to this example of the book. I will just base on the book, but nevertheless, no, may time na kukuha tayo sa ibang book. This will be your practice, parang practice book nyo to. Now, this would provide us the corresponding values for y. And our intention here is to plot the relationship between x and y, assuming that there is. So if I will not put a semicolon, so this would generate these values. No? Ayaw niya, nangyari yun. That would generate these values. And from there, we could have some Okay, we have another function here aside from this. So of course, yung term natin, extrapolation, interpolation. Interpolation means estimating the values in between recorded data points. No? In between. So there are recorded data points now between these values. That's interpolation. So meaning we could approximate the intermediate values. That's interpolation. And extrapolation, estimating outside the bounds of the recorded data. Meaning these are mere predictions. Now we are predicting in the future what would be the trending. Ganun ang ibig sabihin ng extrapolation. Ang intrapolation, they are missing data in between, so we could approximate using the existing data points. That's the difference between intrapolation and extrapolation. And then curve fitting is finding the curve that is best fits the data. So meaning the one that would best represents the data in terms of the relationship of x and y. So there is this best fit line that is actually correspond to the data points. No? So yun yung aning best na line na pwedeng mag-represent sa mga data points. No? Alright. So we will continue here, no? So it would be a quadratic, no? Parang quadratic. So it will try to command polyfit values of x and y into a straight line, meaning degree, first degree. Kaya x, papasin mo Micaela, x, y, 1, meaning first degree. We will be fitting the values into a linear equation. So yun, polyfit. So here, it's almost zero. Though ang sinasabi dyan sa so zero, tama no? In the book, can you follow Micaela? On the PDF file, it's zero. No, but this is well, yung present dito ni Octave is negligible, almost zero. 8.9877 raised to 10 raised to negative 5 and 6.76 e raised to negative 1. This is equivalent to 67.6. So ganyan yung ibig sabihin niyan. The x values, x coefficient would be 0 and the y coefficient is 67.6. So that's the idea there. As you can see on the book, you also have the, of course, if we could plot this, we try to command a plot. I don't know if that could be shown. So medyo malabo lang dito. Ayan, no? Nakikita mo, Micaela. So that's the gross plotting of the relationship of x and y given these two values, 2 to 6 and then a random value for y. So plinat mo lang ng ano yan, parang malaki lang yung projections natin dito sa Octave. Alright? Wala na si Dale. Nasaan na kaya si Dale?
Nag-chat siya sa akin ng mga 1:16 eh. Kaya lang di na po nag-reply ulit.
Oo, kasi actually, siyang una kong sinabihan na 1:30 and up ang kasi we have our 181 class kanina. Baka mahina na naman yung signal ni Alright. Now, let's continue. Ayan. Wake up. Welcome, Isel. So this is the plot of your XY. We are now on page under your PDF file. Now, I'm just following the PDF file, page 75. Under the term curve fitting, the concept curve fitting. So here, there's also this idea of discrete and continuous. So discrete, these are actually exact values, specific values. And continuous, there are what we call variable, it varies, no? But there's a variation on the value, such as a sine wave, that's continuous, and then a square wave is discrete. No, yun yung sa curve fitting natin, no? And we're trying to have some prediction. Now, if we will try to command again, a polypit, this time we will be using second degree. So there you go, you have your anong interpretation dyan. It's actually in the form of a quadratic formula. Okay, so quadratic formula to, that ax squared plus bx plus c. That would be the interpretation here. It will become negative 1.85 x squared plus 14.8571x plus 41.6 is equal to 0. That would be the that would be the value for that. No? And then another thing is we have the polybal or evaluation. So if we have here, tuloy lang natin. Coefficients, coefs is equal to polypit. Because we're trying to fit the values of x and y into first or second degree. Okay, so parang ganun din siya, no? We just equate it into a particular coef, and then we will continue. And then curve, which is actually the evaluation of the polynomial or polybal, would be equal to coefs, yun yung in terms of x. So yan yung magiging values natin. No? So pansinin natin yung original values niya, no? Nakuha ba yung original value? Na parang medyo hawig, no? Doon sa original value niya, doon sa as we equate this to okay, good afternoon Dale, how are you? Okay, acknowledging Ka-Agree team. Salamat po Ma'am Ka-Agree sa inyong patamsak. We're now surveying on still on the book, so no problem on this. No, you could always you could test the accuracy of these commands through your own time. Our focus here is more on familiarity with the command. So halos pareho siya. Originally 65, 67, 72, 71 and 63. No, so yung binalik natin based doon sa approximation or yung polypit na second degree, halos ano siya? Halos katugma ng original na coefficient. So meaning it's better for you to represent this in terms of second. Okay, there is an M file here called Polo temp, no? So we could always make use of a text file to upload, no? So itong gagawin nyo. So you could just pwede nyo copy paste muna for the meantime, pero pag kinopy paste sa Word document ay sa ano lang, ito lang guys, sa notepad. So pwede nating i-edit siya. So halimbawa yung polytemp. So this is an external command that we could create through MATLAB or Octave environment. So the script called polytemp creates an xy vector, fits the second order polynomial through these points, and plots both the points and the curves at the same figure. Calling this result in plot could be seen on 15.3. Yan. So may kita natin. So yung relasyon ng mga points at the same time yung plotting of a second degree approximation of the relationship of the points. So yun yung makikita natin dito. So all in one. Given the same point, of course, we could paste this. So ngayon lang guys, kailangan lang i-edit ng konti kasi hindi nabasa yung ibang PDF ay hindi nababasa ni yung PDF element hindi nababasa siguro dito. So I'm trying to create an external command. We call it script file. No, that will be inputted to your Octave sooner or later. Guys, sooner or later you'll be creating your own script file. It's a basic programming file that is an external command, and you make use of this through Octave. Pwede siyang gamitin by uploading. You could upload. There is an on the leftmost part of this Octave, there's an upload file, and you could upload the M files, that M file, no? Yung ating ginagawa dito from the book. So medyo ano lang natin siya, edit lang natin yung mga text. Okay? So yan, no? Edit ko lang yung equal yata hindi nababasa. So dito, yung both approximated points plus yung mismong line, yung points, set of points plus yung line ay i-display ng magkasabay. So yan yung ano natin dyan. Alright, so I think this is ready. Now, I will be saving this as polytemp. You could save as based sa book. Pero sa inyo, kung gagawin nyo to, pwede nyo ibahin yung pangalan. No? Kunyari, _Dale or polytemp _Dale, _Acel, _, Micaela. So, yun yung pwede. But for the purpose, I'll just copy the polytemp file. And you will not save it as text document but all files so that it will have a .m. Mahalaga guys yung .m. Save lang natin yan. So, this is your script file. Yeah, medyo lakihan ko lang ng konti. Kasi guys, ang parang magiging examination nyo, take home siya, gagawa kayo ng script file on the last portion of the module. There are exercises that you will do your own script file. So yun yung ipapasa natin by the end of the period. Yan. Oops.
Sir?
Yes, Micaela.
Ano po ulit yung .m?
Ito yung file, ito yung script file for MATLAB. Na pag in-upload mo to, either for MATLAB or Octave environment, i-consider niya as an external command. Kung gagawa ka ng sarili mong command out of MATLAB. So ganun siya. So dito, pwede nating i-upload online. Sa MATLAB environment, pwede kang mag-create mismo doon sa MATLAB. So pwede yun. Pero dito, hindi pwede sa Octave. Kaya ang gagawin natin, i-upload natin siya. We'll be uploading this. Ayan. Okay, ready na siya. So we'll just click the upload file here on the left side. And then polytemp. Ayan. So dapat mabasa to ni Octave. Mababasa niya yan. Ayan. Napansin nyo guys, nababasa niya. And then you could run this, no? Pwede mong i-run. So just click the run button, run script. Then here you go, ang objective nito, ma-present yung plotted, yung 5 points, yung 5 points na yan, and then you will approximate it using a quadratic equation this time. Kasi yung pag linear equation lang, yung degree 1 lang, hindi niya pa ma-approximate. Pero quadratic, yes, it may predict so ginagamit tong curve na to as your prediction line, wherein pwede mo ngayon interpolation na tinatawag, you could predict the points between between this given set points. Or that's interpolation, meaning halimbawa sa gitna ng mga points na to, ano yung predictive point values. So pwede using these points. Or you make use of the extrapolation that is beyond these data sets. Na pwede naman by prediction. So that's the purpose, guys, yung ng file na to. Okay? So pwede natin gawin yan. Kayo pwede nyong gawin yan in your time, free time. You could practice on the .m files. Yun nga lang, kailangan nating i-edit kasi may mga characters na hindi mabasa si text file notepad, no, like equal sign, parang iba yung equal sign niya. So i-edit lang natin ng konti, then try to save, and you just upload on your Octave. So, and then we could run using the run command here, as we have seen. And then, pag kinumpara natin yan dun sa textbook natin, halos pareho, guys. What do you think? Doon sa practice set 5.1, nandun yung temperature under page 477. Okay, guys, make sense? So that's how we will test. How will you test the .m files? And you could do that. You could have an advanced study. You could practice. No, pwede kayong mag-practice. No, using in your free time. Okay, do you have a question? So pwede nyo gawin yan, guys. No, pwede nyo gawin yan. Siguro palitan lang natin yung extension name. Halimbawa, polytemp underscore Micaela. Ayan, pwede yun. Pwede yung you could just create and then you try to run using the run button. Okay, make sense? Can you try, sinong naka-PC dyan? So, mas may appreciation to sa PC. Yun, hindi lang makita masyado dito yung X file, no? Ay, yung X values, X and Y values, temperature 1 afternoon. That's X label or title, no? Pero yung hindi masyadong makita. Siguro, teka, I'll try to look at okay, who would like to try? Micaela, can you try the next M file, which is polytem subplot? Nakikita mo sa page 478 of your module 1.
Okay, sir.
Can you do that? Meron bang upload diyan? Doon sa link na pinadala ko, can you upload? Meron doon sa under files. Nandun ba yung upload button or drop files here to upload? Can you see? Can you see that?
Meron po.
Sige, can you try this polytem subplot? Siguro _1. Lagyan mo na _1.
Kakopy ko lang, sir.
O, copy mo, tas edit mo, tas upload mo dito sa ating Octave. Pero be careful with some characters, no? Minsan hindi yung pag-copy hindi siya eksakto. Okay. And then Dale, are you using PC? Dale?
Sir, hindi po naka-phone lang po ako, sir.
Naka-phone, mahirap. How about you, Acel? Okay ba? Can you copy the next M file? Acel, okay lang?
Sir? Sir, wala po akong notepad, sir.
Walang notepad? Ay, ano ba yan? PC or cellphone? Tablet?
Apple, sir. Apple po.
Apple. May tablet dyan . Ay, may notepad dyan. Text editor. Hindi mo ba naabutan yung link? Nagsara yung link? Sandali. Sige, okay lang. Next time din, no? But sige, si Micaela yung una. So, try lang natin. Apple? Mac ba? Mac or tablet?
Mac, sir.
Oo, may editor yan. Hindi lang notepad siguro ang tawag. Ewan ko, kasi wala akong ganyan eh. Pero yan, di ba Micaela, may editor yan? O, naka-Mac din to si Micaela eh.
Ay, try ko to, sir.
Meron yan. Iba lang ang tawag. Baka hindi notepad.
Script pa, sir? Script po ba?
Script.
Okay.
Ang gagawin mo, Acel, yung susunod, yung mylinpit.m. Mylinpit. Ang gagawin naman ni Micaela, polytemp subplot _1. Lagyan ng _1 yan. Yung polytemp subplot, page 478 of the book. Tapos tayo naman, page 479 of the book, yung PDF file module 1 natin, mylinpit.m. Okay? So, pwedeng i-copy-paste lang, tapos edit lang yung equal sign kasi hindi niya masyadong, sa akin hindi niya mabasa yung equal sign, kaya I need to re-edit. Okay, then yung upload here on our Octave. Okay? Then, we'll try to run. Then, you click run afterwards, katulad ng ginawa ko dito.
Ano po ulit yun sa equal sign, sir? Hindi ko po kasi na...
Pag pinaste mo, iba yata, no? Character. Sa akin, iba yung character ng equal sign. So, paki-edit na lang. Paki-edit na lang.
Hindi ko po kasi siya makakopy, sir, kasi parang naka-picture format po yung PDF po.
Ayaw nga, no? Yun lang problem. O di, i-re-encode nyo, guys.
Opo.
Konti lang naman, di ba? Konti lang yan. Kayang-kaya yan. Sige, go. Maghihintay kami ni Dale. Matyagaan naman kami ni Dale. Tama ba, Dale? For the sake of our example. Para maano ko rin kung...
Yes, sir.
Yan. Makakapaghintay kami ni Dale. Sige. Ayan, para makita ko rin yung interaction nitong Octave. Kasi sa totoo lang, I only discovered this during my teaching time sa diyan sa Bethany. So ayan, naghanap ako ng online na ganito na pwede siyang i-share ng libre, no? Ng libre. Doon naghahanap siya ng donation na $3 per month. Ayan, nakalagay, contributing $3 per month. Ayan. So yung mga may diyan, baka gusto niyo mag-contribute para only ang nyo access, $3 per month, no? Free software support. Then kayo na rin guys sa mag-run, you try to run after you upload. Kung sino man yung mauna sa inyo. So yung una, yung gagawin ni tatlo to, subplot. Actually this is a script for subplots. And then yung naman, yung sumunod, this is more on dito makikita natin disregarding this parang function siya, no? So that will be a function. Ayan, nahulog si Dale. Sinare ko muna. Minsan nag-inactivate. So, palaki natin to. Ayan, welcome back, Dale.
Sir, narinig ko lang po kanina na nahulog ako. Kaya nag-reload po ako ulit. Pero hindi po ako umalis.
Oo nga, nahulog ka nga eh.
Opo, tapos sabi ko po sa inyo, sir, naririnig niyo po ako hindi naman na po naging active yung ano ko, yung profile ko. Kaya nag-refresh na lang po ako.
Okay. Anyway, you're back. So let's just wait for our ladies to come up with a script.
Sir, ano pwede
Hindi upload.
ipapangalan ko, sir?
Come again?
Ano po, sir, yung _1 po?
Lagyan mo ng _1 kasi nag-upload na ako kanina nung same script eh. Trinay ko siya eh. So lagyan mo yung sa'yo, lagyan mo ng _1 para ma-distinguish.
Polytemp subplot _1 po. Ayan.
Para ma-distinguish lang dun sa, kasi I uploaded one already. Unless, I think pwede niya namang i-override. Pero just to distinguish.
Sir, yung sa akin po, anong file?
Pareho as
Name
lang
po.
sa'yo kasi hindi ko pa siya,
mylinfit.
yung as
M.
is. .m. Pag sinave as nyo, wag i-save as nyo as text, save as nyo as all files. Kaya para may type nyo yung .m. Kasi pag hindi, magiging .text yan, hindi mababasa yan. Dapat save as all files.
Pero
Ang
script
itong-
po siya, sir.
Oo. It will be treated as script by MATLAB or Octave.
Sir, try ko po yung akin.
Sige, try to upload. Pag hindi siya nag-run, pwede siyang function eh. Pwede siyang function. Tapos gawin mo yung sample dyan sa book. May sample naman sa sumusunod eh. So parang in-store mo lang siya. Ang function kasi hindi siya katulad ng script na nag-auto run. Okay. Nakita ko na yung mylinpit. And then, sige, you type the sample on the next page. Tapos doon, may mylinpit XY doon.
Sir, tama po ba? Or iraran ko pa po?
Hindi mo raran. Mali. Text file yung ano mo. Dapat
Mali.
.m lang. Paano kaya to? Text file lang. Teka. Paano kaya to?
Ulitin ko po yung pag-save po.
Sige, ulitin mo na lang. Dapat .m lang. Wag mo siyang i-save as text file, i-save mo as all files. Para pag prines mo yung .m, hindi siya madadagdagan ng .text.
Sir, upload. Sir, try ko, sir, akin po.
Sige, kung naka-upload na siya. Hindi ko pa siya nakikita eh. Sige, refresh ko. Ayun, sige, okay. Nakita ko na. You try. Sa'yo kasi, ano yan eh, script yan eh.
Ayun.
That script, dapat .m ang... Teka. Subplot. Hindi siya ano bang extension name nito? May syntax error, no? Yan ang i-edit natin, parse error. Okay. Line 8. Hindi mo iraran yung yung mylinpit Isel gagawin mo yung example dun sa next verse, next page. Yung sa'yo naman, i-rename mo Micaela. Pwedeng may rename, ayan meron ditong rename file. Dapat .m pa rin siya. O sige, ako na magre-rename. Na-rename na kaya? Yeah, wait. Yun, madaming file natin dun.
Sir, paano nga po ulit yun sa akin? Hindi ko po siya i-raran? Or
Oo.
ano po?
Magta-type ka dyan sa sa command. Yung example dun
Apo.
sa next page. Oo.
Ay, okay po.
Okay na,
Yung
dotted
mga
na yung
arrow po.
Hindi, yung gawin mo tong x equal to negative 1, 2, 1, negative 1, 1, 2, yung next page,
Ay, okay po. Apo.
yun yung application niya. Assuming na tama, hindi ko na tiningnan yung hindi ko na tiningnan tong assuming na tama tong pagkaka-copy paste. Ito yun. Sige, you type the example here. You try to the example. Then afterwards, balik tayo kay Micaela, yung kanyang file. Script pa rin eh. Sige, i-rename ko dito. Ayan, okay na yung kay Micaela, ready na to. Cannot be elected. Ba't kaya? Ano nangyari? Isn't supported talaga? You could type now,
Yun po ba, sir, yung yung x is equal to 2, yun po ba yun? Or,
yung next page.
Apo,
X equal to negative 1, 1, 2. Yun lang, anin mo lang yun.
negative 1.
I-retype mo lang siya dito sa Octave prompt, command prompt. Para masubukan natin kung gagana yung function na mylin fit. Okay, you try to type there. Micaela, can you still access the file that I renamed?
Alin po,
Sa-
sir?
Yung kanina, dapat .m lang siya eh. Hindi ko alam bakit yung script yung nung rename ko, hindi pa rin siya ma-edit. Ito kasi yung kanina, ito yung ginawa ko kanina. Pero ito, hindi makita eh. Hindi mo siya maran. Wala siya, hindi maran. Kasi itong .m. Michael, Isel, are you already typing something?
Sir, try ko lang po ulit.
Sige.
Sa loob po ba ng code or yung po ba? Or sa
Dito,
after po
sa
ng
command prompt. Type ka sa
So,
command prompt.
After, okay lang po kahit sa after ng and or after po nung sa mismong po loob.
Any wala naman siyang eh.
Wala pong
Hindi siya script eh. Basta mag-type ka lang. Sunod-sunod lang to. X equal to...
Hindi naman po siya mag-error or...
Hindi yan. Para masigurado lang natin na gumagana yung function. Yan.
Kasi,
Madali guys ha, you need to answer this call.
Sir, parang may mali po ata ako or wala po kayong audio.
Yung text file. Pag mali yung text file, delikado. Hindi babasahin. Dapat tama yung text file. Ito, katulad nung ginawa ko kanina, sample lang, no? Supposedly ito yung kay Micaela. Ito yung text file. Pag rinan mo yan, ayan, dapat itong mapuproduce niya. Di ba tama yan eh. Ito yung mismong nasa book eh. Yung output ng book. Yan dapat ang lalabas. Supposedly, pag tama yung yung text file, saka yung mismong text, yung script mismo tama. So, mag-run siya. Ngayon naman, pagdating dun sa infinite.m, line 8, Ano kaya meron sa line 8? Teka, in line 8. Micaela, can you try uploading another text file?
Opo, sir.
Gawin mong _-2. Dapat ang pag-rinan, ganito rin ang lalabas. Ganyan din ang kakalabasan. Sige, I'll try to create for Mylene Pita. Tingnan natin kung parse error, no? Okay. I'll try the sample for ASEL. Tingnan natin.
Opo, nakapag-report na po ako, sir.
Myelin pit. Teka. Mali. Dapat di ko pala rename yun. Kasi yun yung format niya. Naku, paano kayo mababasa to? Dapat pareho lang. Ginanyan ko. Hindi niya ano. So, dapat talaga, dapat pala binago din to. Teka, myelinpit_ed. Ayaw niyang gumana, no? Supposedly, magkukumpute ng yung kukumpute siya ng line na magpipit doon sa dalawa.
Hindi po siya nare-read po.
Oo nga, no? Myelin. Sige nga, Isel, you try to Naka-text file pala ako kaya hindi mag-execute eh. Yan, baka, yan, umano na. Ba't ganun? Sinave as ko naman siya as all files. Syntax error.
May error po talaga dun sa
Kung
line 8
naka-text
po.
file,
Pero, okay naman po
no?
siya sa
Which
command.
is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Numerator over denominator. Yun yata ang line 8 eh. No?
Opo, yun daw
Denom.
po yung...
Denom is
Opo,
equal to sum hindi siya Pwede rin kasing mismatch ng octave sa MATLAB. Eh. Baka ito, lagyan mo lang ng pero parenthesis ano.
Opo, nakita ko na po.
Sige nga.
Yun nga po, kulang po ng parenthesis po na isa.
Oo nga. Sige, baka yun. Hindi talaga mag-aano yun. Naka-text file pala ako. Yun. Yun? Saan kaya yung yun na yun?
Ulitin ko po.
Oo nga eh. Y yun, hindi yun U. Y. Yung X times ano mo, X dotted multiplication Y. Instead of U, Y, U. Instead of
Mali
U,
po.
Y. Sige, edit mo. Tingnan natin. Kaya siya undefined. How about you, Aisel? Can you run? Micaela? Sige, hintayin muna natin.
Saan ko po itong... Ano ko po ba siya ng semicolon yung sa NB po? Or hayaan ko lang po na open po siya?
Pwedeng wala. Pwedeng ano.
Ayun.
Ayan, pumasok na. Okay na. Dali guys. Dali.
Ay. Sir, wala po ata kayong audio.
Minumute ko talaga eh. Nakakalimutan ko lang. Okay na yung may kay Aisel. Yung kay Micaela, yung _2. Ito ba yon, Micaela?
Yes, sir.
Sige nga, i-run natin. Click mo yung run. Ayun, okay na. Good. Okay na. Ito yung output niya. Subplot actually siya eh. That's a subplot. 3 subplot yan na dinivide. Kung papansinin natin yung logic, subplot 1, 3, no? Ibig sabihin, first row, 3 columns. Ganyan yun. No, first, so, may mga ano pa dyan. Ayan. So, madali namang intindihin to, no? So, it produces 3 subplots. Ayan. So, okay na to, okay na to. Okay. So, siguro assignment ko na lang yung kay Dale, no? Bago we could continue. O Dale, next time ha, ikaw naman ha. Mamaya may titingnan tayong M-files dito para kay Dale, no? So next to that is already complex numbers. Complex numbers. Pag complex number, normally we designate it as I or J. Complex number, for instance, Z sub 1 is equal to 3 plus or I. So that's pwede natin siyang makuha yung absolute of C sub 1. Pag sinabing absolute, that is the magnitude. How will you solve for the magnitude? You just you get the hypotenuse, assuming that the real number would be on the x-axis and the imaginary portion would be on the y-axis. You just get the hypotenuse, something like that. So parang ganun yung implication ng pagkuha ng absolute value, no, which is equal to 5. No? So 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to 25. Getting the square root is 5. And then the argument of C sub 1. So this is in terms of radian measurement. So that is 0.9273 radians. Now, of course, converting this to, how will you convert this radian to degree? Guys, any idea? How will you convert the radian to degree? How will you convert the radian measurement to degrees? This in degrees, no? In radian. In radian measurement. Okay? Any idea? Okay, how will you do that? Radian to degrees.
Multiply po, sir, by...
Sige, anong i-multiply?
(180/pi), sir.
Yun, okay yun. Good. 180/pi. Ayun, so approximately 53.13 degrees. Tama. 180/pi. So normally naka-default ang Octave and MATLAB for radian measurement. Okay? So another thing, aside from that, so of course you have the argument and absolute. So parang ito na yung conversion mo from rectangular to polar, no? Rectangular to polar. So yun yung makikita natin diyan. So later on, so when converting, you just need to solve for the absolute value of Z sub 1, which is 3 plus 4i, that's 5. So 5 par 53.13 degrees. No? That's how will you write that. 5 par 53.13 degrees, which is equivalent to its rectangular form, 3 plus 4i. Okay? So that's your, of course, we know that the imaginary come from the square root of -1. So everybody knows that, that's I. So wherein we have a real part and imaginary part, but this is basically 0 is the real part and I or 1I is the imaginary part. Okay, so this could be represented in terms of I or J depending on the usage, but normally we use J for the imaginary part. So the combination of which is actually a complex number. So there are a lot of examples here. Pwede nyong manipulate to, no, in your time. Now, how will you recover? How will you recover this, no? Of course, from Z sub 1, we could say that the real part of G sub 1, we could just show is equal to 3. And the imaginary part or the imag, C sub 1, is equal to 4. Regardless whether you are showing the rectangular form or the polar form. Yan. So lalabas yan, read 4 plus 3i, or in this case 3 plus 4i. Okay? And of course, we could there's also a command here to display the complex form. We display z sub 1 para maibalik natin siya. So that's 3 plus 4i. Okay, that's the command. So actually madali lang tong sa complex number, no? Okay, so there is a command here for printing. You may do so. The fprint f, or this will only print real parts unless both parts are printed. So you could make use of that. And then another case here is for equality of complex number. We know that complex number are equal if both the corresponding real part and the imaginary part is the same. For instance, C sub 1 is equal to 3 plus 4i, and C sub 2 is equal to 3 plus 4i as well. So meaning that C sub 1 and C sub 2 are equal. So because the corresponding real and imaginary part is the same as well. So yun yung masasabi natin na halimbawa dyan. And of course, you know already, I think on your advanced algebra, you know the adding, subtracting of complex form. Okay, so you just add correspondingly, you add the real part with the imaginary part. So assuming we have another complex variable, C, Z3, is equal, say, to 7, -7, plus, say, 5i, or 5i. So getting the sum of C sub 1 and C sub 3, well, we could assign this as C sub 4 perhaps, no? Then we could have a corresponding result by adding the corresponding real number and the imaginary number. So 3 minus 7 is -4, and 4i plus 5i is equal to 9i. Okay? Then we come up with a programming concept here, no? That's what we call add comp. Now, to add two complex together, would have two separate real and imaginary parts, add them to return the result. So we could make use of this. Okay, i-ano natin. We'll try to test. We'll try to test the addcomp.m function. So in this case, we could always, we could have, this is actually a script or a function. This is a function. So we have add. Yeah, let's upload. Okay, so here, add comp or complex. So perhaps we could try here 3 plus 4i and 2 minus 3j. So that's another way to express complex form. So we have an expected answer of 5 plus 1i or simply I. Okay? So tama yung script. So tama siya. Then there's also an efficient method. This is add comp 2. Can you do this, Micaela? Add comp 2 on page 484. You upload and also run. Actually, don't run. It's a function. You could make use of the sample here on page 348. 484 rather. 484. Add comp 2.
Ganun lang din po, sir.
So i-paste mo na lang sa ano. Or kung hindi ma-paste, i-retype mo. Madali lang naman siguro, no? Ayan. So yung typing skills din natin. Isa yan sa mga skills ng guro. Mabibilis tayo mag-type dapat. Lalo na pag may mga lesson plan kayo. So dati doon sinusulat pa talaga, mano-mano. Pero ngayon hindi na uso yung sulat kamay na lesson plan. Normally ano na siya soft copy na nga lang yung pinapasa doon sa supervisor. Pero naabutan ko pa yan. Naabutan nyo ba yung teacher nyo? Nagde-lesson plan na mano-mano, sulat kamay? Guys, o hindi na?
Hindi ko napansin, sir.
Hindi nyo napapansin yung teacher na may hawak na malaking notebook. Malapad yung notebook niya tapos pinapasa doon sa subject coordinator. Yan, nagpapasa sila. So dati ganun. May lesson plan. Pero ngayon parang wala nang ganun. Yan, naabutan ko pa nung kay Mrs. Bostre, naalala niyo si Mrs. Bostre. Diba, yung paborito kong grade 1 teacher. Actually, siya ang paborito kasi siya lang naman ang teacher ko ng grade 1. Normally, hindi naman nagpapalit-palit ng subject pag grade 1. No? Hanggang grade 3 yan. Isang teacher natin. Pagdating ng grade 4 yan, napapalitan na. I don't know with your school, Pero sa amin, si Mrs. Bostre lang. Kung sino advisor mo, siya yung teacher mo throughout. Grade 1 hanggang grade 3. Pagdating ng grade 4 yan, nagro-rotation na kami. Yan. Meron silang hawak na ganyan, yung malaki. Malaki yun eh. Parang yung columnar ng pang-accounting, yung worksheets. Ganun kahaba. Pero notebook siya. No, notebook siya. So dati, hindi ko alam, ano kaya itong pinapasa na? Yung pala ay lesson plan. Alright? So, anyway. Sige, Micaela, kindly do the second part, the ADCOM 2. The ADCOM 2. Okay na, no? Are you editing directly here? Or uploading?
Hindi po, sir. Upload po.
Naglo-load?
In-upload ko, sir, kaya lang wala po yung laman.
Oo nga eh. Ano nangyari sa laman? Siguro mabagal din yung server na Octave, no? Hindi naman siguro sa issue ng ano eh. Server din siguro. Pero in your end, nakikita mo yung script? O hindi rin? Ganito lang.
Nakikita po, sir.
Nakikita, no? Nakikita nyo? Yung laman ng script? Sa inyong browser mismo?
Yung Octave po.
O yung Octave. Pero yung nagbi-blink-blink na ano, yung Adcom 2, yung laman niya. Kasi itong kaninang ginawa ko, pag click mo to,
Wala din sir sa akin po.
may laman. Ito, yung Adcom
Yan po,
2
may
kanina.
laman. Yung
Oo,
kanina,
ito
sir,
yung
wala.
kanina. Pero yung in-upload ni Micaela, yun, hinihintay kong magkalaman. Ano kaya nangyari? Pero na-upload mo na, Micaela. Maaring text file siguro yun. Hindi ko kasi makita dito eh. Sobrang laki ng ano.
Ano po sir?
Ayaw niya nang ma-atras. Wala, no? Teka, i-refresh.
Wala rin sir sa akin po. Baka po yung file po yung may problema sir.
Yung Adcom 2.
Sir, try ko po sa akin.
Okay naman. M-file naman siya. Ito, M-file din naman. So, hindi natin makita yung ganito niya. No? Ito, hindi katulad itong kay Hazel kanina. You're working on _1, Micaela? Anong file ang inaano mo dito? Ini-edit mo?
Wala sir, sa labas po ako nagawa.
Sa notepad, tapos in-upload mo lang. Pero wala siya, no? Hindi pumasok. Sige. I'll try. Ganito lang siya no? Tama, no? Okay, I'll try. Tingnan natin. Yan. Yun lang. Undefined. Undefined year line 1, column 1.
Sir, doon po kasi sa command, sabi daw po, format add com. Hindi po ba dapat add com to po? Yung sa format po. Kaya po nag-error.
Sa format.
Opo, yung sa 4 po na line.
Oo nga, no? Tama.
add
Good
com lang po.
observation. Baka mali itong libro, no? Tama. Oh, yes. Hindi ko rin napansin yun. Yan, sige, natin. Kung OTC, C1C. Ayaw pa rin yan.
Mali po ata kasi yung name po. Kasi po may underscore 1 po, di ba? Kaya hindi po ata nare-read.
Isa pa yun, no? Hindi pala narinig natin. Ang daming complication, no? At pareho yung file names dun sa command sa format, no? Sige, baguhin natin siya. Maganda yan. Tama yung observation. Yan, tingnan natin. Yun, wala pa rin. Valid call to submit. Yung mismo sa function niya. Yun, hindi pa rin. Wala pa rin. Teka. Bakit kaya? Saan kaya nagkamali? Siguro yung mismo lang, minsan yung text lang mismo, no? Ayun, meron pa rin siyang invalid characters. Hindi natin nakita dun sa So, ito lang. Halos pareho lang naman. Okay, run natin. Ayan, J is equal to 1, 3 plus 4i. P is equal to 2, 2 minus 3j. Ayan, okay. Yung nag-i-invalid, no? Pero na-ask niya yung Z sub 1, C sub 2, no? So, sige, we'll try to rectify that, no? I'm not so sure. Pero kanina nakita nyo, di ba, nagtanong siya? Nakita niya dun sa So, anyway, let's continue. So, wala na tayong So, dapat, na to eh. So, pero okay naman yung kanina. Alright. So also on complex, aside from that, so meron tayong multiplication also. So we know already the multiplication process. Say z sub 1 is equal to 4 plus 3i. C sub 2 is equal to say 5 minus 2i. So we could multiply c sub 1 times c sub 2. So we may follow the trinomial pattern. No, meron tayong mga trinomial pattern diyan. Also specified in your textbook 485. Then we also have the conjugate formula, by the way. Conjugate is just changing the imaginary part, the sign. For instance, the conjugate of c sub 1 is just the negative of the imaginary part. If this is positive 3i, the negative part is the minus 3i. That will become the conjugate, and the real part will remain the same. No? Will remain the same. Now, for instance, if we have also the conjugate of z sub 2, hindi pala masyado nakikita. Tanggalin ko na lang tong caption. Okay, conjugate of c sub 2. So we will have also the pattern. Since it's 5 minus 2i, the negative of negative 2i is positive 2i. So that's conjugate. So maraming formula din dito sa complex numbers. No? Marami tayong formula. Of course, we already knew absolute value and the imaginary. And the next to that are complex equations represented as polynomials. No? So it could be also expressed in polynomials. Instead of considering this as a real part, there is already a complex conjugate. There's a complex conjugate. For instance, we will use the same root command that we have used for real numbers. Roots of 1. Okay. 1 minus 3. And we have positive 2i. So meaning there is an imaginary counterpart. No? Kasi pag wala namang imaginary dito, the system will consider this as a real roots. No? So this time, so meron ng idea na may imaginary or complex roots for this. No? So that will be the result. Okay, so sino ba yung nahulog? Ayan, si Micaela. So, if this is a cubic equation, no? However, dun sa example natin, ito pala ay isang complex conjugate or a complex quadratic wherein you have negative 3 plus 2i as one of the roots. So, pag ganito, lalabas yung nasa book. So, complex conjugate siya or complex. It has complex component, the roots. If we are solving z squared plus c plus or minus 3 plus 2i is equal to 0. We make use of that simple complex complex root or imaginary roots. We make use of the command roots. Then for evaluation purposes, so we have also your polyball. Now you could always make use of the polyball. Pareho din siya ng function ng real form, okay? And we know how to compute the relationship between the real part, imaginary part, and the argument, no? As well as the hypotenuse. No, yung hypotenuse nung ano. So, pwede natin siyang masolve. We have here on page 486 regarding polar form that A is equal to R times cosine theta. If you may still recall, I'll just use my notepad here. Okay. So, we have here A is equal to, that's the real component, cosine theta. Or cosine x. Okay. O theta na lang. Or say z or omega w. And then we have the b component, that's the imaginary part, r sine omega. And then we know that r is equal to the absolute value of the z, or the complex number, which is equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared. So you know the formula, no? And then of course the w or the theta would be the arctangent of b over a. Okay, so that's how we compute the relation between the polar and the rectangular coordinates. So in converting from polar to rectangular, you just need to know the radius, or the argument, or the absolute value, I should say, absolute value, no, cosine the argument, or theta, which is your imaginary real part. And for imaginary part, this is the absolute value sine of the argument, or the omega or theta. And then regaining back to its convenient polar is the Pythagorean relationship, a squared plus b squared. And for the theta or omega, that's arctangent of b over a. So those are, I suppose you still recall this, no? Regular to rectangular, rectangular to polar, or polar to rectangular, whichever. Okay, so I think there is also a formula here of angle, no? Yung angle pala pwede, no? Kasi dati nun yung argument lang saka absolute value, no? Buhay pa ba yung C sub 1 natin? C sub 1, so if we would like to solve for the absolute value of C sub 1, obviously this is equal to 5. And then the angle, no? The theta is equal to the angle, or the argument, ARG, yung kanina natin. We already solved this. We could convert this to its degrees. So times 180 divided by pi. So that's approximately equal to 36.87 degrees. And then we have here also the exponential form. Pero exponential form, babalik yan dun sa ano eh. Babalik siya dun sa rectangular, no? So if you have your R is your absolute value, no? That's equal to 5. So your R times the exponent e raised to, so exp I theta. So I theta, that is the angle. So what will we expect? We'll be expecting a return to rectangular form. Expect to rectangular form. Okay, so yun yung ano natin. Hindi ko lang sure bakit hindi siya bumalik ng tama. Kasi minultiply natin sa 180 over pi. Dapat hindi pala yung theta. Ibalik natin yung theta sa kanyang original. Yan, para 4 plus 3i. Then we could also plot Guys, we could also plot the real number or the complex number. We could plot the complex number. Ayan. Yan, we could plot the complex number here. So by following the pattern here, I will just follow the book. Kasi itong book very practical na for MATLAB purposes, lalo na yung mga problem solving requirements, no? So assuming that again, we have z sub 1 is equal to 3 plus 4i. And then you have to plot what? C sub 1. And you have a marker of an asterisk. Mamaya makikita natin yan. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Comma. And then you have marker size 12. Okay, hindi pa natin ano, no? So we have X label. Hindi yata na-clear yung ano pala kanina, clear table. Hindi natin na-clear. Okay, just type it as is. Title complex. So parang hindi nakuha na bago yung table kanina. Supposedly, ito yung kakalabasan niya. No? There's a plot between the real part and the imaginary part. Ito yun. Hindi ko alam bakit clear table or clear graph ba ang dapat. Clear graph. Clear table. Wala namang ibang value to. No? So, ito yung marker niya. No? Parang ito yung ano eh. Ito yung complex form. Oh. Kaya lang, sinama niya sa ibang table. So actually may command yata for clearing the plot. Clear plot or clear graph. Ayaw niya no? Supposedly, nasa gitna siya ng 3 saka 4. That's the way it should be plotted on page 487 of your book. That's how we plot the complex plane. Okay, I think next week na to, we will have symbolic mathematics. So guys, I want you to study. You try to practice also symbolic mathematics. So hanggang dyan na lang yung plotting ng complex plane. No? I want you to read, so be ready for some practical questions by next week regarding symbolic mathematics. That will be our next item of study. We'll be using MATLAB. So I'll be more practical. I'll be asking questions regarding symbolic notations. The commands that is taught here: simplify, collect, expand, factor. So these are familiar algebraic operations here. Okay, and of course, we will be doing some MPALs as well. May mga easy plot, no? Ito yung mga solution o solve. Okay? And then afterwards, calculus tayo. Where we'll spend 1 or 2 weeks for this, and then we will go to calculus, symbolic calculus, until our 6th week. And then after 6 weeks, then you go. I will be requiring you an examination, but not anymore to be submitted. It's more of a take-home exam. Exercises siya. Now, exercises, the requirement is either you create a solution using MATLAB. Now, that's the point. So, I'll be choosing problems on exercises found on page 500 of your module, wherein this is a requirement is a take-home. It's more of a take-home exam. Either you will do a script, a function, or simply a command, a direct command in your Octave. Tatlo yung pwede nyo produce: function, na kung saan magtatanong siya ng mga values, katulad nung kanina doon hindi lang nag-execute ng tama, or script in itself, self-regulating siya, or yung command na kung saan pwede nating i-type siya. No? For the sake of simplicity, you may save this to your notepad, no? Notepad. So as a practice, no? So yan ang ating, mamimili lang ako dyan. I'll be choosing randomly on these exercises, those that you will be submitting as your prelim requirement. But next week, be ready for symbolic mathematics operations of MATLAB. So primarily algebraic siya. Right guys, do we make sense here? So tuloy nyo lang yung pagbabasa guys. I already uploaded the module. So practice lang kayo. Siguro yung mga glitches, mas malilesen yung glitches natin kapag yan na-practice nyo, or kung may mga MPALs, you could edit it in the notepad, so para yung mga characters involved ay hindi siya mababasa siya ng Octave beforehand. And then just be ready, no, to be called and to perform some operations on the textbook that we have. Okay? Are there some clarification? Okay, so ganito lang tayo guys. Napakadali lang nito. Basta may Octave ka lang, mapapag-practicean nyo. And then midterms naman, focus tayo sa matrices, linear algebra. Pagdating sa finals, may konting statistics kahit papaano. So at least na-cover natin yung ilan sa mga computational mathematics using MATLAB. So that's really our purpose, that students in math, especially math majors, will have at least a knowledge, no, a teaching knowledge as far as MATLAB is concerned. So you have your this online platform, no, could benefit you. no? Kasi highly computational siya, no? Though hindi siya masyadong graphical, no? May ibang mga software package na more graphical. Pero dito makikita mo yung logic, yung connections ng variables, no? And then of course yung troubleshooting. So makikita natin yung troubleshooting doon sa mga lines na maaaring may pagkakamali. Okay? So yan yung kaya palagi kong ginagamit to instead of using highly graphical or highly visualized. May marami kasi lalo na sa geometry, maraming mga highly visualized images, no? So with for me, I don't need that. So I will be focusing on computations, logics, connections of variables, and the purpose of which for us to troubleshoot or for us to have some yung mga we could edit, no? We could always change variables so that it may be fitted to the platform, no? Most especially Octave or MATLAB. Okay guys, we have clarification. So just be ready for symbolic mathematics. That would be our next topic. Perhaps we'll be spending weeks 3 and 4 for that, for symbolic mathematics. No? And then the last 2 chapters or 2 weeks would be spent for calculus problem, both integration and differentiation. Yeah, at least we cover some algebraic and advanced mathematics as well. Okay guys, other clarification before we close? Okay, so basa-basa lang guys and then practice. Pag-practicean niyo yung mga sample problems dyan, then eventually prepare yourself for the exercises at the back. No, kasi dyan lang ako kukuha ng mga take-home exam nyo. Prelim, midterm, and finals. So ganun lang siya. No, at least, pwede nyong i-try. No? Before submitting it, you could try. Either you create a script, you create a function, or you create a simple command. No? An octave command that is line per line solution. Pwedeng ganun yung maging sagot nyo. Okay? So pero pwede rin siyang script, depende din sa requirement ng tanong. Or pwede rin siyang function. Katulad ng mga ginagawa natin, yung ina-upload yung file, these are functions or script. Okay, pag sinabing script, it could be run by itself. Pag function, there's a need to ask the variable requirements before it will give an answer. Okay? And then kung command prompt naman, dito lang sa Octave mismo. No, yung kanyang command prompt doon. No, that you could type the solution line per line until you arrive at a particular solution. Okay, thank you guys for your cooperation. Hope to see you next week. Just be reading the symbolic math portion and just be ready for participation. I hope everyone will be participating on our Octave activities by next week. Okay, so let's close in a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the time that we have. Indeed, Lord, we're embarking in a platform that is not so familiar with some of our students and even professors. But now, Lord, these are opportunities of learning to our students that we may capitalize on the freeness of this online platform where we could solve some problems or we could create models through scripts or functions. I hope and pray that you will provide blessing to our students, that they may continually appreciate this as a matter of reinforcement on their study of mathematics, a reinforcement in their teaching, as well as that they may have a more creative approaches on teaching mathematics through different platforms, including Octave Online. We thank you, Lord, and continually may we glorify your name in our lives. This is our prayer in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, guys, thank you so much. See you next week. God bless us all.
Thank you po.
Bye.
Bye po.